felt uneasy, so he sent the Shekinah. The Shekinah is a gale-forced wind with two heads, and one head followed the other until they reached Mecca and coiled up at the sight of the house, the way a snake coils.
There are some that suggest that Allah is Satan, the snake who tempted Adam. Using this metaphor to describe Allah's presence supports that theory. But whether or not that's true, this passage is troubling. Mecca is nearly 1,000 miles from Beersheba. These places are separated by rugged mountains and virtually impassable desert. There is no plausible way a 100-year-old man, a slave girl, and a small child could have endured such a journey. And this may be why neither Muhammad nor Allah ever bothered to tell us how they accomplished the improbable voyage.
Tabari. Abraham was commanded to build where the Shekinah had rested. When he had finished it, except for one stone,
guess which one?
The boy went away to build something else. But Abraham said, "No, I still need one more stone, as I still order you." So the boy went looking, and when he found one, he brought it to Abraham. But Abraham had already set the black stone in place. He said, "Father, who brought you this stone?" Abraham answered, "It was Gabriel who brought it to me from heaven." Then the two of them finished it.
And I could have sworn that Muhammad told us that the stone was brought to earth by Adam. That was in Tabari, Volume 1, page 298. Was he lying then, or is he lying now? Version 2 follows. It was also from Ali.
When he built it, he went forth and left Hagar and Ishmael behind. Ishmael became very thirsty. Hagar climbed Safa to look for water, but saw nothing. Then she went to Marwah, but the same thing happened. Then she returned to Safa and looked around, but could not find Ishmael. After looking 7 times without success, she said, "Ishmael, you have died where I cannot see you."
You may be wondering why she would look for water now and not have bothered during the 3-month desert crossing. You may be wondering why she would look on the top of barren mountains rather than in a valley oasis. You may be wondering why she repeated the process 7 times, endangering the life of her child. The answer is Islam. Muhammad needed to make the Hajj rites religious. Even today, Muslims are required to run between these mountains 7 times. This explains why they do it. However, there were problems. Abraham was supposed to be the father of Islam. In this hadith, he didn't perform any of the rites. He merely rebuilt Allah's house and bailed. And the one who performed the Islamic ritual, Hagar, left Islam's most important child alone in the desert, as did Muhammad's mother, not so coincidentally. The sacred Meccan well of Zamzam needed biblical credibility too, so
the boy scraped the ground with his finger, and the spring of Zamzam welled up. Hagar began to dam up the water, but Gabriel said, "Leave it."
In the versions that follow, we're told,
Abraham and Ishmael set out for Mecca. They took pickaxes without knowing where the house was. So Allah sent a wind, which had 2 wings and the head of a snake. It swept the area around the Kaaba clear for them to build the foundations of the original house.
Not on the foundations, nor to see the foundations, but to build the foundations of the original house.
This was when Allah said, "When we prepared for Abraham the place of the house."
That became Quran 22:26. Since 3 contradictory versions were not enough,
Tabari. Allah commanded Abraham to build the house and to call on humanity to perform the pilgrimage. He left Syria with his son Ishmael and his mother Hagar. Allah sent the Shekinah, which had the power of speech. Abraham followed it to Mecca. When he came to the place of the house, it spun round and said to Abraham, "Build on me, build on me."
Allah's house was built upon a snake.
Abraham laid the foundation and raised the house, working with Ishmael until they came to the cornerstone. Abraham said, "Oh, my little son, find me a stone which I can put here as a sign to the people." He brought him a stone, but Abraham did not like it. When Ishmael came back, the cornerstone had already been brought and put in place.
After failing math, science, and history, Islam is failing architecture. The cornerstone is the first rock laid, not the last. And cornerstones are big and rectangular. The olivestone is small and oval. But again, it wasn't by accident. The Bible refers prophetically to Christ as the cornerstone. And you know who was desperate to be just like him. How was Abraham supposed to call humanity to this place? The valley was uninhabited. It was in the middle of a foreboding desert. The first settlement wouldn't be established for 2,500 years. Furthermore, the Islamic Abraham was piling unhewn, unmortared rocks in a desert ravine. The first heavy rain would have done it in. Perhaps the fifth version of Abraham in Mecca will provide a more rational answer. After circumcising Hagar, rather than cutting off her nose, we're told,
Tabari, Sarah said, "She will not live in the same town with me." So Allah told Abraham to go to Mecca, where there was no house at the time. He took Hagar and her son and put them there. Allah pointed out to Abraham the place to build the house,
which would make Allah the snake.
When they reached Mecca, there was nothing there but acacia trees.
If that is true, Muhammad's earlier accounts must have been false.
The house at the time was but a hill of red clay. When he was done, Abraham headed back to Syria. Gabriel dug out Zamzam with his heel for Ishmael.
All I can assume is that neither Muhammad nor Allah had a clue as to how the rock pile got there. These wildly divergent explanations are preceded and followed by dozens more. It is as if Muslims think truth can be found in a pile of lies, if only the pile is big enough. The tradition moves on to recount a variety of patriarchal Meccan visits. Never mind that Mecca didn't exist. Muhammad wants us to believe in fairy tales, in talking stones and trees.
Tabari, and everything that heard him, stones, trees, hills, and dust, said, "Here I am, Allah, here I am."
Continuing to give meaningless ritual religious meaning.
Tabari, Abraham took Ishmael with him one day out of Tariwa,
the 8th day of the Hajj,
and stayed at Mina with the Muslims who were there. He prayed with them and said the prayers of midday, afternoon, sunset, and late evening. He spent the night and prayed the dawn prayers with them. In the morning he went out to Arafat, and he spoke to them there until the sunset drew near.
This hadith goes on to detail all of the remaining Hajj rituals, all of which are still performed by Muslims, as if they were acting out Abraham's example.
He showed them the sacrifice ground of Mina. Then he performed the sacrifice and shaved his head. From Mina he went into the crowd to show them how to perform the march around the Kaaba. Then he took them back to Mina to show them how to throw the stones until he had completed the pilgrimage and proclaimed it to mankind.
Because the previous account was unbelievable for a myriad of reasons, not the least of which was that there were no Muslims in Mecca, Muhammad felt compelled to give it an angelic twist.
Tabari. The prophet said, Gabriel came to Abraham on the day of Tariwa, and went with him to Mina, Arafat, back to Mina, threw the stones, performed the sacrifice, shaved his head, and finally hurried to the house. Then Allah ordered Muslims to follow the religion of Abraham.
This became Quran 16:123. That must mean that the religion of Abraham, Islam, can be defined as running between two desolate mountains, tossing stones, shaving one's head, walking around a rock pile. And so it would be. Even today, Islam is known for its rites and rituals, rather than for its righteousness or its reason. As we turn the page, we find ourselves embroiled in the mother of all disagreements. Even Muhammad and Allah are at odds.
The earliest sages of our prophet's nation disagree about which of Abraham's two sons it was that he was commanded to sacrifice. Some say it was Isaac, while others say it was Ishmael.
Mind you, these are the very same people we are reliant upon for remembering the Quran and passing it along orally, so that other sages could jot it down. This might well explain why it is so disjointed, contradictory, and I dare say silly, not to mention perverted, demented, and disgusting. Tabati reports,
Both statements are supported by testimony related on the authority of the prophet. Both statements are equally sound, since they